Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And now we are done discussing about the K to 12 science curriculum. And now let's proceed on what are the contents of chemistry. Here comes the question, what is chemistry? Can you share it to me on for you what is chemistry all about? I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, so thank you for your idea. So chemistry, of course, there are a lot of definition when we talk about chemistry. But here in our subject, so we will define chemistry as the study of matter. So, kana ra siya para dali masabtan or para dali ma-memorize. Chemistry is the study of matter. And here comes the question. What is matter? And we will discuss that after this one. Who are the people that uses and apply chemistry? So first, chemists are people who understand, deal with, and use chemistry in three distinct ways. So they help explain occurrence, describing how things occur and why they occur. They investigate materials to study and discover their chemical composition. And lastly, they combine and blend substances to create new chemical and compounds such as medication and shampoo. So please bear with the noise coming from outside or coming from my surroundings because I'm shooting it here in our home. So next, here comes the question, what is matter? So matter, of course, it is anything that occupies space. When we talk about space, that is volume and it has mass. And when we talk about mass, it is, of course, made up of particles. And now, we have three various sizes here when we talk about particles. When we talk about macroscopic, these sizes bigger than atom in size. So example for that one is dust, sand, and the like. And when we talk about microscopic, the size of that one is size as atom to molecule in size. Like for example, the elements or the compounds such as carbon dioxide, the water, and letter C, subatomic size. So these are size that are smaller than atom. We have proton, electron, and neutron. Okay, so next. So for us to have a bigger picture of what is matter all about, so I have here this, what do we call this one, graphic organizer. You know what, this graphic organizer is very helpful, most especially because this graphic organizer summarizes on the nature of matter. So, matter, so it could be pure or a mixture. When we talk about mixture, this can be separated by physical means. And when we talk about pure or pure substances, this cannot be separated by physical means. So I guess let's focus first on the pure substances. So pure, it is divided into two categories. We have element and compound. When we talk about element, contains only one kind of atom, and the best example of element are the periodic table of elements. We have oxygen, helium, we also have carbon. And next, when we talk about compound, this contains two or more types of atoms in one number ratios. The best example for this one is the water or the H2O. We also have the salt or table salt. Of course, the chemical formula for this one is sodium chloride, NaCl. So that is the nature of pure substances. When we talk about mixture, so we have two. We have uniform, we also have non-uniform. When we talk about uniform, we call that one as homogeneous. And homogeneous, it is the same as solution. So the best example for this one is of course when you dissolve salt or white sugar in a water. So that is a solution that belongs to the category of homogeneous. Why? Because there is only one thing that you could see in the mixture. Okay? And also, when we talk about heterogeneous, it is non-uniform. So even though you mix the two matter, two materials, still you could identify them. Like for example, chocolate chip cookie, di ba? Makita nimo in a cookie, makita gihapon nimo ang chip or chocolate chip. And we also have soil. So that is the nature or some sort of overview when we talk about matter. Next, let's proceed to the state or phase of matter. So, during our childhood, we discuss only three states of matter. We have the solid, the liquid, and the gas. But don't you know, we actually have right now five states of matter, and later on we will discuss the two. So first, solid. So it has definite shape and volume. When we talk about definite, it has this, what do we call this one? Fixed shape and volume. Like for example, a brick, 'di ba? Next, particles are tightly packed together. Particles vibrate against one another and do not move from one place to place. So observe example, the metal, ceramics, wood, as well as plastic. For example, the plastic or the plastic cup, then you will put it in a jar. So, bag-spread ba ang plastic cup? Of course, dili. Kung unsa nimo siya pagbutang, mao gid ang itsura because the particles that inside that solid or material are tightly packed together. That is why most goods sa solid are hard. Next, number two, we also have liquid. It has a definite volume. When we talk about volume, it is more on the space. But it has not definite shape as compared to solid. Because, you know what? The liquid depends on the medium kung asa nimo siya ibutang. Unlike sa, for example, unlike sa bricks, kung ibutang nimo sa planggana, mura gyapon iyang forma, brick lang gihapon siya. But when you put water inside that planggana, of course, the shape of water will depend kung unsa nga medium nimo siya gibutang. And the particles are close together. Particles vibrate past one another and they do little movement. That is why kung iabon mo ang tubig, maglihok gid siya as compared to this, what do we call this one, solid, di ba? So the examples of liquid are water, liquor, oil, fuel, blood, and even sweat. And I'm sweating right now. Number 3, when we talk about gas as compared to the two, it has no definite shape and volume. And also the particles are not close together, very spread out, and vibrate freely past one another. So example of this one is when you inflate the balloon, right? So examples is are oxygen, carbon dioxide, kana siya. And number 4, we also have plasma. And number 5, we also have Bose-Einstein condensate. Next, so let's proceed to the phase changes. So of course, the state or phase of matter changes over time. So we have here from solid to solid. We call that one as solid to solid transformation. Example of that one is when you break the rock. 'Di ba kung buak ko nimo ang bato, pag buak nimo sa iya, solid ra gihapon ang rock. That is solid to solid. We also have from liquid to solid and we call that one as freezing. For example, ang tubig ibutang nimo sa ref, mag-ice. That is freezing. We also have gas and solid. So we have a deposition. So the best example for this one is kana bitawng sa kuan sa bugnaw nga area. Like for example, ang kanang kuan sa hangin is mapundo siya, then ma-deposit siya and it will turn into, of course, masolid siya. Next, we also have solid to liquid. So we call that one as melting or fusion. So the best example this one is of course from ice. Itunaw mo siya may tubig. Next, we also have gas to liquid. We call that one as condensation. So example of this one is tunog. Kana siya. Kanang sa grass bitaw nga every morning mapundo nga tubig. We call this one as, or that is the best example of condensation. Another example of condensation is during water cycle, mag-condensate ang tubig nga gikan nga nag-evaporate. Next, we also have solid to gas, we call that one as sublimation. The best example of that one is mothball and dry ice. Next, liquid to gas. We call that one as boiling or evaporation. So, di ba, from tubig siya, may mo siya gas, kaya mag-evaporate man siya. Next, we also have this gas to plasma. We call that one as ionization. So, actually, we will not tackle deeper when it comes to the plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate. We will only focus on the three phase or state of matter. Next. And now we are done knowing with what is matter all about, including its state. But let's have now the physical and chemical properties of the matter. So when we talk about physical properties, these are the characteristics of a substance that can be observed or measured using our what? Senses. So physical ka na makita ra nato, magunitan, ma-observe ra gyud nato. Okay, so example of this one is the color and luster. So color, of course, this is the light, the substance reflects, gives an object color, and luster, which is shine. We also have malleability. Always remember this definition. It is a substance, or the substance can be pounded into or rolled into sheets, is said to be malleable. So the best example for this one is aluminum, foil, gold, or tin. Other example for this one para dali is lata. So malleable ang lata. Next, ductility. It is any solid that can be stretched into a long wire is called ductile. So the best example for this one is mga wirings nato, like copper. Next, of course, state, solid, liquid, gas. It has a texture wherein when you touch it, you will feel it, gaspang ba or hamis. We also have odor, so the use of our sense of smell. And of course, the taste. Whether it is sweet, salty, bitter, sour, spicy. We also have clarity, of course, being transparent niya. We also have crystal form. So, it is solid mineral structure with a regular pattern of 3D shapes. Like, for example, the table salt, the sugar. We also have melting and boiling points. We also have solubility, kanang matunaw siya, madissolve siya. So, trivia, you know what the universal solvent is? Water. Next, of course, the hardness. So, hardness, it is a substance ability to resist being scratched. Dili kay gahi nga gahi lang siya ha, but it resists from being scratched. And we are using the Mohs scale, hardness scale, so that is from 1 to 10. And 1 is pinaka soft gyud siya, nga kuan is talc, and the hardest one is the diamond. And we also have mass, the amount of matter in a substance. And when we talk about volume, it is the amount of space a substance fills. So again, I would like to clarify when we talk about mass. So for example, your mass here if it is 50 kilogram, when you went to the moon, still the same mass gyapon nimo. Ang na-change lang is only the weight. Next, viscosity, it talks about the flow of the liquid. We also have density, the amount of mass in a given volume of a substance. And so those are the physical properties nga ma-observe nato in a matter. We also have the chemical properties. So chemical properties, it is the ability of a substance to change into a new substance. So this can be observed if chemical change happen. So in short, physical properties is associated with physical change, and chemical properties is associated with chemical change. So the chemical properties are combustibility, kanang masunog siya, mo react with oxygen. We also have the reaction with acid, and also corrosion, kanang magtaya. And now, let's compare the difference between a physical and chemical change. So with the use of this table, we can really identify on the difference between physical and chemical. So when we talk about physical, does not produce a new substance. Like, also these are the indicators. Increase or decrease of size, change in shape, change in physical state, change involve the extensive properties only. So example of this one is kung tamak-tamakan nimo ang lata. So physical change na siya kay wala man nimo gi-change ang chemical component ana. And other example is kanang gisi-giso nimong papel. Nabay chemical change ana? Wala. For example kanang magbuga ka. Nabay chemical change ana? Wala gihapon. Now, let's proceed to the chemical change. So, in chemical change, you produce a new substance. So, the indicators of this one are the change in color, odor, as well as taste. The formation of precipitates, evolution of gas or heat. Okay? So, the best example for this one is, for example, kana magluto ka. 'Di ba? Kana magluto kag itlog, 'di ba, from kuan siya is nag-change ang ihang chemical properties due to the heat, and of course kana magtaya ang iron pan. And now let's proceed to the separation of mixtures. So these are the methods of separating mixtures. So medyo daghan ni siya. Okay, so paspasan tara ni. So we're gonna talk about hand picking from the word itself, hand picking. Therefore, you will use your hand. Punito nimo to separate the two ay the mixture. Like for example, this one kana bitong magkuan mo kanang kuan bugas, then kanang naay mga tipasi siya og naay mga bato-bato, di ba? You will hand pick those mga bato-bato og tipasi. Okay, kana siya hand picking. Another example is threshing. Of course, ginagamit ni siya sa kadalasan sa mga farmers. Okay, kani siya. Okay, gina-thresh nila, gina-usahay. Other way of threshing is kanang iana-ana, ipagpag. And other way of threshing is gamiton ang tiil. Yes, para ma-separate ang stalks sa katong humay. And now winnowing. Of course, winnowing, wind, the use of wind. Kana bitong magkuan og humay nga gamitan og hangin, kana siya. Kung katry mo ana, we call that one as winnowing. Next, we also have sieving. Magamit ka og salaan. Salaan nga kani yun ani ha, dili tong filter paper, dili sieving lang. Kanang murag kuan bitaw kanang magprito mo og manok, kana siya. We call that one as sieving. Okay, kani siya. Next, we also have sedimentation and decantation. So let's proceed with the sedimentation first. Sedimentation is of course the more first is number 1, eroded sediments end up in the water and begin to settle or mag-sedimentation na siya. Next, of course, with the time, more layers pile up and presses down the lower layers. We call that one as compaction. So therefore, the more nga mga balas-balas, mga bato-bato ang maadto sa water is of course mag-sedimentation na siya, undergoes a sedimentation process, then mag-compact na dayon na siya. So more layers and further compaction forces out water of the layers. So salt crystals glue the layers together, so rock mass formed is sedimentary. Okay, so of course, through time, the more nga mag-compact ang mga materials underwater, is there's a big chance nga mapahawa na ang water. Okay? And also, we also have decantation. So decantation, pinakadali ra gyud kay ni siya. For example, you mix stone sa water, i-mix nimo siya. So gusto nimo ipabilin lang ang stone. So iyabulag nimo ang water para mabilin ang stone. That is decantation or pouring. Next, filtration. Of course, you will use filter paper. Like for example, kanang mga salaan nato sa tong tubig, filtration na siya. Yes, kana. And we also have evaporation, of course. Kani siya. We also have distillation. So, what is the difference between evaporation and distillation? So, evaporation, magamit gyud sila heat para mag-evaporate, para ma-separate ang duha. But here, in distillation, aside from using heat para mag-evaporate siya, of course, na siya ingon ani nga medium wherein na siya part nga cooler, kung makita ninyo, nga kung moagi dira ang water vapor is it will turn it into water. So, distilled water na siya. So, mabili na tong mga kuan dito Okay. We also have sublimation. Okay, so sublimation is the transition of substance directly katong from solid to gas. And lastly, magnetic separation. Of course, you will use magnet. Okay, separating funnel method, you will use a funnel together with filter paper. So those are the things that you need to know more about chemistry. So you know what? This is just some sort of overview because I guess you are done with chemistry from elementary, junior high school, senior high school, right? So I really do hope that this video really helped you on refreshing your mind on what is chemistry all about. Okay? So thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that you will like and subscribe on my channel for more updates. Without further ado, let me end this video with a quotation from a Principles of Teaching book. It states there that every child is a potential genius. I know you are quite doubtful with yourself right now because you tend to say na, dili mo ko maayo. But trust yourself. Always remember that we have the 9 multiple intelligences as mentioned by Howard Gardner. Always remember to do your study, do your work, do your assessment task. Again, this is Mark Jen M. Martinez, your course instructor in EED 1.